This is Q Racing News, brought to you by the Bank of America Racing Challenge.
Hearings continue this week in Tallahassee, Florida on the issue of pari-mutual barrel racing. Earlier this year, the Florida Division of Pari-Mutual Wagering granted a racing license to Gretna Racing LLC, a group that has since begun operating pari-mutual barrel racing. Critics say Gretna Racing is simply exploiting a loophole to gain a license to operate poker rooms and slot machines. Back in April, the Florida Division of Administrative Hearings began what was supposed to be a 3-day hearing on the issue, but they ran out of time with at least half a dozen witnesses remaining and decided to pick it back up in late June, which is where we are now. 450,000 horsemen represented by interests opposed to Gretna Racing say the license was granted without enabling legislation, regulatory hearings, or public input, and that it was an overstep of regulatory authority and constitutes an unpromulgated rule. Long story short, the license is invalid and should be revoked. Horsemen's interests are concerned that giving barrel racing the same regulatory status as traditional thoroughbred and American quarter horse racing would have dire implications. The Florida HBPA notes that a barrel racing operation would require about 8 horses a day to operate and meet the legal obligation to keep their card rooms and slot floors open. A traditional racetrack, on the other hand, houses about 2,000 horses. The implications to the Florida horse racing and breeding industries aren't hard to deduce. Among those giving testimony this week is AQHA's Executive Director of Racing, Trey Buck. The Daily Racing Form reports that stewards at Delta Downs have suspended 2 more trainers after horses at the track tested positive for the painkiller dermorphin. Gonzalo Gonzalez and Alonzo Loya are suspended for 6 months each. It's the longest suspension allowed by stewards in the state of Louisiana. The State Racing Commission is able to hand down suspensions up to 2 years, plus loss of license and a hefty fine. The state recently confirmed 7 positive tests for dermorphin, 7 quarter horses and 4 thoroughbreds. Sunday night at Los Al, we saw a new fastest mark at 350 yards for the current meet, and it happened to the Grade 1 Ed Burke Million Futurity. Keep your eyes on one dashing eagle owned by San Gregorio Racing Stables and Jose and Gustavo de la Torre. The one famous Eagle colt would go on to win by a length and a quarter, and a season-best track time wouldn't be the only milestone met in the win. His dam, One Sweet Dash, became just the 4th quarter-horse broodmare to have 2 different winners of million-dollar races. And his sire, One Famous Eagle, is now the 4th American quarter-horse stallion to win a million-dollar race and sire the winner of one. The other 3, I know you're wondering, are Corona Cartel, Royal Quick Dash, and Teller Cartel. Arnold Gonzalez's Fires Blazin' placed. Joy Rose's Eagle SA finished 3rd. And the night before, it was Delta Downs hosting its trials to the $550,000 restricted Grade 1 Lee Berwick Memorial Futurity. 10 trials in all. And here's your fastest qualifier. Eric Johnson's fastest Talkin' Henry would travel the 350 yards in 17.330 seconds. Sired by He's a Fast Dash out of the Streakin' La Jolla mare Streakin' Cindy. Heath Trailer trained him, John Hamilton rode him. Ms. Jingles, owned by the AA Partnership, had the 2nd fastest qualifying time, followed by Bob and Jerry Gaston's Big Time Beau. In May, vesicular stomatitis was detected in 2 horses in Otero County in New Mexico. 11 premises are now under quarantine. The New Mexico State Veterinarian says where out-of-state livestock are a part of a public event, such as roping, racing, or breeding, or traveling interstate, a health certificate written within 5 days of entering the show will be required for all New Mexico origin livestock. The Animal Health Commission in the adjacent state of Texas encourages owners to limit exposure of their livestock to insect bites. It's theorized that insects are an important vector in the transmission of VS. AQHA Racing hosts the 33rd annual J. Pumphrey Cowboy Classic Golf Tournament, August 28th and 29th at the Links at Sierra Blanca in Ruidoso. That's the same week as the Ruidoso Select Yearling Sale and the All-American. Still room for players and hole sponsors. If you'd like to be either or both, you can go to AQHARacing.com and just click the J. Pumphrey Cowboy Classic link near the bottom of the page. That's this week's Q Racing News. I'm Matt Darby in Amarillo. See you next time.
This is Q Racing News, brought to you by the Bank of America Racing Challenge.